Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Anton. So we're back with another video. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to create this simple table that shows you which commands were loaded and which ones failed. Okay. Now with this, you actually do need the command handler. Obviously, you don't need a command handler because there are other ways that you can implement this table. But the easiest way to create this table is using the structure of a command handler, because all we're going to do is we're going to verify that our commands successfully loaded by checking our command file. We're going to check every single module, and we're going to make sure that all of our modules have these properties and the property maps to the correct value. Okay, so I'll go over in just a sec, but I want to show you guys how this looks like. Okay, so if I restart my bot, notice how we have this generated table. This is all mock data. It's not my actual commands being loaded. It's just all mock data, just to show you guys how it looks like. Okay, so when the bot starts or when the process starts up, we're going to load all of our commands. Okay, we're going to check our modules. Okay, so in the tutorial where I showed you guys how to set up the command handler, we never checked the actual properties of these modules. Like, so far, all of our commands, we have the run property, we have an aliases property. The description property was something that I added off camera. So if you, I suggest you guys just add a description to all of your roles. Okay, you can see I have a description over here for all my commands. Okay, but we never ever checked to see if the properties worked or not. Okay, we never checked to see if the properties were actually legit. What I mean by that is, a lot of times people will just require the module and that's it, right? But you don't actually verify if the run function actually works or if the run function actually exists. We never verified that. So we're gonna have to verify all of those things. Okay, so so let's just get rid of all this code real quick. This is just like sample code. We're gonna implement this together because I actually haven't implemented this yet. So we're gonna do it together, and yeah, it's gonna be lots of fun. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go inside the register commands function. And what I want to do is I want to do all of my checks inside this register commands function, because this function itself is responsible for making sure that all of our commands are the schema, like the structure of our command files, are correct. Okay, so the first error that you'll probably encounter is if a module is not found. And what I mean by that is right over here on line 36, where you're saying let cmd module equals require. So if the file is not found, right, it's going to throw an error. And that can happen too. Let's say, for example, if you have a file name and then you're trying to require that file to the path, it might throw an error, but most of the time it shouldn't, because the name of the file is going to match every single time. So that should really never happen, but we're going to handle it just in case. But generally, what we're going to do is we're going to just wrap this whole entire code into a try-catch block. So any errors that happen, any error that happens inside this try, it'll be caught inside the catch, because there are going to be a lot of errors that can happen. The first one, which again, it should never happen, but in case if it does for some reason, it's going to catch it over here. Okay, so in case the file's not found, catch that error. Okay, now there are other errors that can happen too. So let's say, for example, if this error is not thrown and we actually have the module, okay, we're going to verify that the module itself has all of these properties: the run, aliases, and description. So I'm going to go ahead and create a function, or I'm going to create a new file called inside the utils folder, and we're going to call this cmd validate, or validate.js. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a couple functions. We're going to say module.exports.check command module. So this is just going to be an arrow function. It's going to take in one parameter. It's going to take in the cmd, the command module parameter. And what we want to do here is we want to return a Boolean value, true or false, but we're going to check to see if the module has all of the properties that the command file should have. So it should have run, it should have aliases, and it has description. So we're going to say cmd module has own property. So if you want to check if a property exists on an object, you can just say it has own property, not property. Okay, property, and then we're gonna pass in run, and then we're going to use the AND operator to join another condition, right? So all of our conditions need to be true. So we want to make sure that it has not only the run property, but the aliases property. Okay, so if the module has both these properties, it's going to return true. if it doesn't have at least one of them, it's going to return false. The last property we're going to check is description. And of course, you can always modify this too. Okay, you can check to see, you can add more properties, and for every property that you add, you're just going to, add another condition down here. Okay, so if at least one of these condition returns false, then the entire value, the entire Boolean value is going to be false for this whole proposition. Okay, so it has to have all of these conditions. Okay, so over here, we're going to go ahead and say if, we're going to have to import this function, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that up here. Const check command module require utils validate. Okay, so this is going to import this check command module function from this validate.js file. And in here, if check command module, we're going to pass in command module because we already imported it, right? And since the file actually exists, because if it doesn't, it's going to throw an error and it's going to go down here. Okay, so since it exists, we're going to pass it here. Okay, now, if this is true, let's just go ahead and log into the console. Good. Okay, it's not going to do anything, but you're going to see it's going to say good, which means that it has all three of these properties. If I go to add role, and if I get rid of description, it's going to say, what? Okay, okay, yeah, like I forgot, let me do an else. Notice how it says not good. That's for the add role.js file because it doesn't have the description property. But if I add it back, it's going to say good for everything. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so what's next is we need to then make sure, not only do we need to check if the properties actually exist, we need to make sure that the property, the value of each property is the correct type. Okay, so for example, the type of run should be a function. Aliases should be an array, and description should be a string. So I'm going to create another function called check properties, and this is going to take in the command module, and what we're going to do here is we're going to do a couple checks. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, the first check that we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the we're going to use the type of operator, so we're going to say type of cmd module.run. So the type of operator will basically give you the type of the variable value of the value. So for example, type of cmd module.run, it should return function. Okay, but if it's not equal to function, right, we're going to throw an error. Okay, the reason why we're going to throw an error is because when we throw this error, our catch statement is going to catch that error, and this is where we're going to keep track of all of the failed commands. Okay, so we're going to throw a new error, and we're going to give a custom message. And the reason why is because, if you're a developer, you want to know, it's going to make your life easier. You're going to know which parts of your code are failing. Okay, so we're going to say throw new error, cmd module.run is not a function, which is going to be good enough. So if the property run in your module is not a function, then it's going to throw this error. If type of cmd module description, or we'll do cmd module description is not a string, because description should be a string. I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. This is cmd description is not a string. And finally, type of, or not type of, we're going to check to see if yeah, I don't think the array is a type. Okay, that's because it's an object. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the array.isArray function to check if cmd module aliases is an array. Okay, and basically if it's not an array, because that's what the negation operator does, it negates the truth value. So if it isn't an array, right, then we're going to throw another error. We're going to say cmd module.aliases is not an array. And if none of these cases are true, that means everything is good. Every property is correct. So we're going to return true. So down here, we're going to go ahead and import this check properties function, and we're going to say if check properties. We're going to pass in command module again. Okay, whoops. And if this is good, then we're just going to take this code down here and we're just going to do what we were doing before. But this time we're only checking everything just to make sure everything's correct. But over here, all we're doing is we're just setting the commands and setting its aliases. Okay, great. And of course, if this returns, well, this is always going to return true no matter what. If it doesn't return true, what that means is it's going to actually throw an error. Okay, so I know that kind of sounds a little bit weird when I say that's always going to return true, but basically we're checking all three of these properties first. If none of these properties throw an error, it's going to return true. Okay, but if it throws an error, it's gonna like exit this function and go straight to this catch. Okay, cool. Now for this else case, for this if check command module condition, we're actually going to manually throw an error. We're gonna say module missing a property. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually going to do the same thing I did over here, because again, I want to know which properties are missing. Okay, because that's going to give, because if I say module is incorrect, it's not going to say anything. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. So let's go ahead and let's give some curly braces. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to say if, so if it doesn't have this property, we're going to throw an error, throw a new error, module does not have property run. Okay, same thing down here for what was the other one? Description, and likewise down here. This is great. So if we ever run into any errors, it will always tell us what is the issue. Okay, and if none of these errors exist, we're going to return true. And now let's just do some console log. Good. Okay, what's going on here? Good. Okay, good. Everything's good. Now what if I change the add role and let's get rid of description? You're going to see that we have an error, module does not have proper description, and that's great because, you know, let's say if you have a bunch of commands, you might miss something by accident. It's going to tell you exactly what the issue is. Module does not have proper description. Obviously, it would be a lot better if we specified which module it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass in the, I'm going to take in two parameters. I'm going to take in command name, and I'm going to pass it in here. That way we can tell the person which command has an error. So we're going to go ahead and let me actually do this. I'm going to use string interpolation, cmd name command module does not have that. Likewise, we're going to do the same thing for this. Cmd name command module does not have property description, and same thing over here. Aliases. All right, cool. And obviously you can do the same thing down here. We'll just leave this alone for now, actually. Okay. Now let's go back and get rid of this again. Now it's going to say add role command module doesn't have proper description. Exactly, that's what we want. And let's say if this was a number, it's going to say cmd module description is not a string. And yeah, let's actually log the role. Yeah, I'm not the role. I keep saying role. I really mean command. Command name. Okay, likewise here. Command name. Description of string. So this way it's very specific on what the error is. Okay, and we can immediately look at where we can go ahead and fix it. Add role description is not a string. Add role command. So that way we're specific. Perfect. So then we can be like, okay, let's go to our add role.js file and let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, great, perfect. And I'm sure this will also help you a lot in the long run for figuring out your errors. Okay, now that we are good to go, all of our commands are good. So again, we don't need this else case anymore because it's going to throw an error. It's going to catch down here. Okay, so now let's get on to the next part. We need to actually build out our data. Okay, earlier I'm pretty sure I showed you guys this. Basically, we need to do a couple things first. So let me actually pull up the documentation real quick for this. We're going to import table. So if you haven't already, make sure you install table and ANSI colors. Okay, and what we're going to do next is we're going to go inside our bot.js file, and I'm going to go and say const table, or actually I'm not going to import table, because what I want to do is I want to load the entire table in like one at a time, right? I don't want to load everything all at once. I want to load it one at a time, kind of like how you saw earlier. It was like, you know, loading the first row, second row, third row, etc. To do that, we're going to use a stream, and you can actually go down here and streaming over here. You can see that create stream requires number blah blah blah. So we're just going to go ahead and import create stream from table, and we're going to go ahead and do require table, and then what we're going to do next is we're just going to go ahead and set up a config. So honestly, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into utils, and I'm going to go ahead and say table config.js, and I'm going to do module.exports equal this object, because we want to keep this independent from everything else. Okay, we're going to save that, and I'm going to go ahead and import that. We're going to say const table config equal require utils.table config. Okay, and pretty much this, again, you can read the documentation and see what it does, but it allows you, so over here we're specifying the default width of the column, we're specifying the number of columns that we have, and we can also modify the border and how it looks like too. Okay, alright, so assuming you've done that, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and create a stream. And so this is going to be the tricky part that I actually have not done yet, but we're going to do it together. So what we're going to do is first we need to actually build out this array. So over here, this is a two-dimensional array. It's basically an array of arrays. And this array is going to give us all of the data that's going to be put into the table. Okay, and we want to make it look nice with the colors that I showed you earlier. So we're going to have to use, that's where we're going to use the ANSI colors module from npm to, you know, make the colors look nice. Over here, these are just the actual escape codes with ANSI, but I then discovered the ANSI colors module, so we're going to use that instead. Okay, so first let's create a, this code is kind of getting a little bit messy. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's say const command status equals this array, and over here, every single time a command successfully is registered, we're going to say command status dot push. We're going to go ahead and push an array with two elements. Okay, well, the first one should actually be the header, the head of the table. So it's going to say the command, and it's also going to say loaded or status. Okay, so what I need to do is I actually want the command to have a bold font. So kind of like over here, you can see how it has this bold font up there. I want that bold font. And if you guys want to preview, the stream is going to look something like this. Okay, again, the same thing that I showed you earlier. So ANSI colors actually supports this. If you want to do bold, I think if you do something I think it's c.style, should work. I haven't actually tried it out yet. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Yep. So if I do, let's see. Let's do c. Oh, first let's import ANSI colors first. So let's do const c equals require ANSI colors. Let's do c dot bold, and this is a function. We're gonna pass in the command. Okay, that's the string command, and the next element we're gonna pass in, this is going to be for the second column, we're gonna do c dot bold, and we're gonna do status. Okay, so that's going to give us a simple table. I'm gonna log this to the console real quick. So let me actually import table. Let's do console.log table and status, and it's going to look something like this. Okay, if I want to give it a different color, I can do something like, what is it, green? Or let's do yellow. If you see here, what happened? Bold. Oh, okay, I messed up. So it should be bold. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Dot yellow, and then command. That should give you yellow color. So yeah, you can just play around with it, obviously. We're just going to leave it like this for now, but again, I'll just look at the documentation. I'll leave a link in the description. You can just play around with it. Okay, so this is going to be the first one. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to push our data. Okay, so we need to push a couple things. We need to push the name of the command, and we're going to push whether we're going to push the word status. I mean, we're going to push the word success because it succeeded. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and push, let's see, C. And the color of this, again, you can specify whatever color you want. I might want, and I'm not going to bold it, but I'll probably do cyan color. Cyan, and we're going to do CMD name. I think this should work, because, hold on. Let me see. Opening that up. Okay, there we go. Command name, and that should be good. And the next thing we're going to do is success, because it succeeded. And of course, I want to give this a green background. So we're going to do C, whoops, C.bg green bright. Success, just like that. Okay, now if it fails, we're going to go ahead and just do the same thing. But this time, instead of cyan, we're just going to do red. Actually, no, we'll leave it alone, actually. We'll leave it alone. Because we're gonna have a red background. We're gonna say failed. Okay, so now after everything is done, unexpected string, what's going on here? Where is that? 62. Oh, whoops, that should have been a curly brace. Okay, so nothing happened, obviously, because we just logged that here, but let's actually do this inside this ready, and it should actually log it. Let's see. We should get a table anytime soon. Hopefully nothing crazy happens. Hopefully an error is not being thrown. There we go, perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Okay, but obviously, wait, let me restart this again. Okay, see how everything just appeared, right? We want this to appear as a stream, kind of like how you saw in the documentation. It appeared like one by one. So instead of just using the table function, we're going to use the write stream. Okay, and we're going to do that inside the, you can do this inside the ready function, but honestly, yeah, we're going to do this inside the ready function, actually. Let's see, so let's do this. So at least this will tell you when the bot is ready, it will tell you which commands loaded successfully, which one failed. But of course, you can also make it so that if it failed, you should exit the bot. And I mean, it doesn't really, it's up to you how you want to implement it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do create stream. Or let's do let stream. And we need the config, which is table config. Okay, and what we're going to do next is we're going to do a simple interval. So I already have that code written out over here already. Okay, so over here, we're just going to create a function called fn. We're giving it a name because we need to clear that interval once everything's done. And we're going to create a variable called I. This is going to keep track. Okay, and what we want to do is we're basically going to say stream.write, and we're going to reference this command status array, and we're going to get the position, we're going to get the element at the current index. Okay, so we're going to get I. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to write it to the stream, and we're going to increment I so that it goes to the next array. Because remember, this is just an array of arrays, so each element that we're referencing is going to give us an array back, and that's the value that we're passing into stream.write. Okay, but we also need to check to see if I is equal to command status.length, the length of the command status array. Okay, because if it is, that means that we have to clear the interval and we need to stop. Okay, and else we can just write to the stream, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna set the interval to 250. So let's see what happens. So our bot should say logged in. Perfect. Okay, great. Now let's actually fail one of our commands. So let's turn this into an integer. So watch this. See how it says add role failed? Okay, and it even threw an error too. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And of course, you can add other columns too. You want to make sure, so for your config, where's the config? For your config, you want to make sure that this column count actually matches the number of columns. So every single element in the inner array is going to represent a column. So if I change it to 3 and if I save, it's going to give you an error. It says row cell count does not match the config.column count. So we can fix that. I actually wanted to add a description. So we're going to say c.bold description, and we're just going to go ahead and let's see. Well, that might actually throw an error because description itself might not exist, for example. So let me try this out real quick. So push, we're going to do c dot, or we're just going to do cmd module dot description. See, there we go. Rolls of dice. Perfect. Exactly what we wanted. And notice how the delete roll succeeded, but if we get rid of that, the delete roll is gone. Well, it threw an error. Yeah, there we go. We change this to 2. Oh, what's going on? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Okay, but obviously, if this all goes well, it should log everything. Just wait for the bot to log in. Of course, you don't have to wait for the bot to log in. You can just put this outside the ready event. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I know it was a really fun tutorial. And again, I highly suggest if you guys want to customize everything, I'm not going to go in depth on how to customize everything. Just look at the documentation and just read through it. If you need help, just go on my Discord server, and we'll try our best to help you out. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you can play around with to make it look nice to configure. You can even add Unicode emojis to like a check mark. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So once again, the code will be in the description. I'll leave a link to the Git repository, and you guys can check it out. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.